What's up, welcome to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Survivor 44. Survivor Season 44 just wrapped up on CBS. Another, entry, the landmark reality series. To me, the best reality series on TV, bar none. The only one I really watch as a result, just because nothing's quite as good as Survivor when it's good. And even when it's just okay, it always compels me. And I think that's why I love Survivor so much, is putting yourself in those shoes, putting yourself in that situation, going over all the options and choices that are presented to the people and figuring out how would you have acted in that moment. Could you have thought the way they did? What would you have done differently? It's just so fun, and it's always so fulfilling to me to try and continue to think about the series. That's why I find it so engaging. I think Survivor 44 is an interesting season, right? It's now the fourth example of our new era of Survivor, the shorter duration season, post season 40. And by and large, I think this new era has been carried by very strong casting on the part of production, and the criticisms you could put in this new era is largely, I think, production influenced, which would be um, an overwhelming emphasis on twists and advantages and things like that, things beyond the original core Survivor game that people have known for 20 plus years. And also, I think something that's a bit unforeseen by production, but will be on the Survivor production team to rectify in the future, which is something I do find compelling, but has presented issues with the way Survivor is currently structured, and I'll get into how this affects season 44, is the issue of the high Survivor IQ, the high floor people bring to being on Survivor in the 2020s that they didn't bring back in the day in the 2000s. The people that go on Survivor now are all diehard Survivor fans and have been watching the show for 20 years. They think about it the way us people at home think about the show. Thus, the choices they make, the decisions they make, the rationale they have is just more advanced and more strategic by and large than anything from the past. And that level of consistency brings, I think, a lot of more objective gameplay to Survivor. It's really funny to watch this show where people have a hard time keeping any secrets and will just blast anything out there. Also, alliances are so rare now at this point. People will entertain every single conversation and just kind of go up and down from there. You have someone like Danny burning his idol to keep Franny alive in a vote, and then what is it, a week, 2 weeks later for us, a few an episode or two later, he votes out Franny. It's like shit like that happens. It's kind of wild. So I think with 44, I would say this is an example of good casting, but probably my least favorite cast of this new era, certainly behind 41 and 43. And the gameplay has been good, but I think not amazing. But thankfully, this is the best example of an alliance in the new era. Of course, the Tika 3 end up running the table against all odds, and that was the most captivating thing about 44. I think really what saves the season overall, because otherwise you just have a lot of kind of misplays by some characters. You have some of the biggest personalities in the season, like Brandon and Danny and Franny, going out kind of early. Uh, the people that did remain, people like Jamie, even people like Heidi, they're not given a ton of screen time, honestly, to really stand out. And I don't know, it is what it is. Sometimes you just kind of get more straightforward gameplay. I think obviously Carolyn and Jam Jam, they got so much screen time right away. They really carried the pre-merge stuff. And then you watch them make it all the way to the very end as well. It was actually a pretty fun storyline. That being said, I think there was a lot of fear that Carolyn could end up being like a Gabler type win, like in 43. And it didn't go that way. And I actually think Jam Jam's performance at the final tribal council really sold him as a winner and makes him a really capable and deserving winner. But in the process, of course, what happened? Carson was taken out at 4 at fire, just like last season where Jesse was taken out at 4 at fire. The biggest threat, the clear winner, gets taken out at 4. That is a trend that continues, and that is a trend that continues to happen because there's just a outsized importance placed on winning that challenge and thus being able to decide the fire. Now, there's of two minds, right? Oh, well, that immunity challenge should have more weight because it's the last one. I understand that, but I just kind of don't like the whole crux of fire making. Like Heidi felt that she had no choice but to go into fire herself and take out Carson. And despite all that, she still had really no compelling case to win. And I don't know, I just think I just don't like it as like an option because like you want the best people there at the end. And it's getting to the point where like survivor IQ is so advanced that's like the move now is to be as under the radar as possible, keep yourself as safe as you can, and then to make a big move as late as possible, taking out a presumptive threat at the time and putting yourself in that threat's place and get to the end. And that's just not as compelling to the viewer because the person who's pulling that off was not a key cog in the storytelling earlier in the season. That's on production to find a way how to fix that because the gameplay of the contestants is going to be decided by the format that the show is in. So, it's no one else's fault. Production just needs to figure that kind of stuff out. I thought Jam Jam was the correct pick of the final three because really him and Carolyn had a very similar game. They were together the entire time. They were almost always on the right or wrong side of the same votes. They're usually voting together. Less so at the end, but Jam Jam was able to, I think, articulate why he deserved it better. We're really talking about his social game and how he could read people's eyes and stuff, really highlighting that. And I think he's a pretty compelling winner as someone who's on the bottom for so long, got votes cast against him constantly, was able to come in to the merge at the bottom and take people out that target him, having just a bias against people and then turning into a power player. Like, it's a compelling win. Also nice that he's the first queer winner in over 15 years. Would not have guessed it had been that long, but awesome. And he's also a winner who had no advantages. Incredibly impressive to pull that off. But again, it kind of speaks to just the way things work now. It's like you win a lot of immunities, people are going to get you out, like Franny. You get advantages, you play a little flashy, like Danny, you're dead. You rise to the top in the later half, everyone's gunning for you, like Carson. That's just how it goes. I think Carson was pretty compelling. I'd like to see him back. Obviously, he's quite young. I'm sure he'll be back on a returning season. He also highlights a huge issue that Survivor 44 brought up, which was the fact that Carson's able to 3D print Survivor puzzles at home and practice and have the confidence that he will encounter those very same puzzles on the show when he goes on. I mean, that's just an L on CBS and production. Like, spend more money and make more puzzles. That cannot happen. Like, it cannot be that easy. Hats off to Carson for pulling that off, doing that prep. It's not his fault, but he should not be able to do that. And that's on production. They just need to make more puzzles. You should not be able to practice puzzles like that because we know how integral puzzles are as an equalizer type aspect of many challenges, especially in the merge. So was not a fan of that overall. Yeah, I think the other thing that was kind of interesting about 44 was production introducing fake idols themselves. Obviously, contestants have created fake idols to try and dupe opponents before, which is a great thing, really fun. Doesn't happen often, but we like it. But production putting like a real produced fake idol in there and having them look differently, tribe to tribe. I think that's just an issue of like you're approaching like the dam and like you're going to break the water pretty soon where like people are just going to be so paranoid and have no confidence in anything being real or not. I think there kind of needs to be a line of what production does versus what the contestants can create out of thin air themselves, by making their own idols. I think that it's a bit risky to have that. I think it would have been fun if 44 featured Heidi correctly playing her idol and really like ratcheting up tension about her chances to win. Thankfully in the finale, her winning immunity for the first time and then putting herself in fire to take out Carson. That was compelling. That added a lot of tension. But I really would have loved if the idol was played correctly. You think about it, there was not a lot of huge idol action in 44 despite the myriad fake idols, including people that found fake idols and all that. Alas, it happened. 45, I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be 90-minute episodes officially, which is great because I think there's so much compelling stuff about Survivor. And I think the social games of players, the alliances, the character dynamics, there'll be so much more to flesh out in a 90-minute episode because we know that each episode we watch is over a 3-day period. So I think it won't feel fluff at all. It's certainly worthy of that. And you'll probably see more reward challenges as well. The one disappointment I have is that 45 is not, in fact, a returnee season. I think there was some thought that, after 41 through 44, with this new era, 45 would be the first returnee season of this new era. That is not the case with 45, so we will continue to cross our fingers and wait for that because, as I said, casting has been so strong in this new era that there's so many compelling people to want to bring back. I think you can make a really awesome all-star cast, and that's, not even including any winners. Like, you could really nail it across 41 through 44. So we'll hope that we get a returnee season perhaps in 2024. But in the meantime, 45 will be back in September. I'll be talking about that when that comes out. But let me know, how did you feel about Survivor 44? How did you compare it to other New Era seasons? Did you like it more or less? And for more TV reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.